Right now at 5, the possible indictment of former President Donald Trump. He claims he would be arrested today. This is in relation to a hush money payment made to an adult film star back in 2016.
And right now, fencing is up around the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and metal barricades at the courthouse in Manhattan, where the grand jury will reconvene tomorrow as it continues to weigh charges. Good evening. I'm Jade Jarvis.
And I'm Tiffany Kenny. Thank you for joining us here at 5 o'clock. We have live team coverage tonight, and we begin with our Steve King, who is at Palm Beach International Airport. That's where former President Donald Trump's plane remains at this hour. Steve?
Yeah, well, right now you can see, again, that plane right here, just like you said, meaning that former President Donald Trump is most likely inside of Mar-a-Lago right now. But experts say if he were to be indicted, he likely would leave Palm Beach County and turn himself into authorities up in New York.
Right now, it's just kind of a waiting game.
Former Department of Justice trial attorney Richard Serafini says the main reason he thinks it's no longer a matter of if former President Donald Trump will be indicted, but when, is because Trump's defense team called a witness, Robert Costello, to testify before the grand jury on Monday.
It was a defense witness, and it seems to me that if there's a likelihood that you're not going to, or even a significant probability that you're not going to indict, there would be no reason to put in a defense witness to try and dissuade the grand jury from indicting. It does seem as though there's likely to be an indictment, and it's likely to be relatively soon, but we'll have to wait and see.
Serafini says it's still unclear exactly when an indictment would be handed up to the judge. He says before that happens, the grand jury needs to be briefed by the DA's office. There will be deliberations, the indictment document will be drafted, and then if there are no changes, the document would be given to the judge, who would then have to sign the arrest warrant. Serafini says if indicted, Trump could either surrender to New York authorities or choose not to surrender, but experts think all signs point to Trump turning himself in.
In almost every white-collar case where there's no danger of flight, the prosecutors and the defense attorneys arrange a time and a place for surrender, and they will. I'm sure that'll happen in this case.
And Serafini also told me what it might look like if Trump were to surrender. He says that Trump would not have to wear handcuffs, most likely, would not spend any time in jail, but he would have to be booked, getting his mugshot taken and being fingerprinted, and also having to appear in criminal court for arraignment. Serafini says most likely, if this is an indictment that happens during the criminal case, Trump would have many of his appearances in court waived by the judge. Reporting live in West Palm Beach, Steve King, WPBF 25 News.
Steve, thank you. And our team coverage continues tonight with Angela Rozier. She joins us live near Mar-a-Lago, where supporters of the former president are gathering tonight. Angela?
That's right, Tiffany. That crowd continues to grow here. I talked to one woman who says she can't wait for the former president to be president again. And as you can see behind me, she's not alone. Dozens of supporters lined up along Southern Boulevard on Palm Beach outside Mar-a-Lago Tuesday after hearing claims that he is expecting an indictment out of New York. We saw one woman with a sign that read, "I stand with President Donald J. Trump," waving her sign at drivers as they passed by and as police looked on to make sure traffic continued to flow. Members of the Palm Beach Police Department have been out here all day. Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg has a message for any possible protesters.
The message is, if you're coming here to exercise your First Amendment rights, that's fine. If you're coming here to try to intimidate people through violence, stay away.
Ehrenberg says there are new state laws in place that are against violent protests. And he also says that he will be prosecuting any individuals who are arrested by police here. We've been here out here all day, and we have seen no issues. Reporting live on Palm Beach, Angela Rozier, WPBF 25 News.